Hey, everybody. Welcome to Earth is School, where the cool kids go. That's us. That's all of us. Everybody. Doesn't matter what you believe in, what you do. You're a cool Earth is School kid. Hey. How are you, Tim? Earth is School. Welcome. Thank you for coming in. I am so hyped about today's episode. Just going to give you guys some time to come in, catch these vibes. As you come in, breathe in and breathe out. I want to develop some type of routine thing that we do when we just inhale and exhale before we start and after. Something like that, just to that's all I got to say. You know what a deep breath does? Good. Okay. I know you're happy to be home from work. What's up, Descendant 9? Yeah, y'all, I'm all about the breath. That's what I do. I teach people how to breathe, how to release the tension from their mind and their body. So when you come into Earth is School, just take your breaths. Inhale. Exhale. If you've ever done that during a time of feeling stressed, feeling weary, it is amazing how it works, because you can literally feel the tension leaving your body. Seriously, try it. Just try it. Try it right now. Just take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale. So simple. Probably the first thing we should have been taught in school, how to just breathe deeply, just release any anger or any frustration or fear, anything. What is up, guys? Come in, say hello. So Earth is School is starting a little bit later than usual, probably for the next few weeks, because they're doing construction on my building, and I don't want to be interrupted with construction. But it's the reason why I didn't set a time. I didn't want to make you guys obligated and make myself obligated. I really like flowing. It feels so much better. So, had I said every single day at 8 Eastern and not a time later, and then here we are with the construction and things have changed, and I would have been like, oh my God, I'm late and da-da-da-da-da. And it's just unnecessary if you don't have to. You are welcome. You're so welcome. You guys, today's episode is oh my God. Every single human being on earth needs to be listening to this episode. After I got done with conjuring up the points I wanted to mention, I'm like, yo, this is another book. I don't even know if I should do this episode, because this is another book, seriously. But it's good for me to do it, because then, just like with my post over the last 11 or so years, I can just take from that and just create. For those of you who don't know, I am a writer. I have not published a book yet, but I will. I will very, very soon. And that's my biggest thing, is being a serial writer. I just have so many things that I can put in writing form. A lot of times, just like I get channel messages and I just kind of flow and say things that match the writing, it happens even more. So it's taken me so many years. Let me turn this down. It's taken me so many years to do the podcast because I just been writing. And so, yeah, that's a huge thing for me. I was like, yo, this is so juicy. This is so good. This topic and the things that we're going to hit, it needs to be a book. And I think it's going to be a 2-part series because I'm really going to try my best. I'm going to try my best to stop it at like 30, no later than 40 minutes, dead ass. So if that happens, no matter what, I'm going to try and just cut it, and then we'll just have to come back tomorrow. And I'm not worried um about the feelings of that because it's going to be so good. I'm about to feed you guys so well. You're going to be full. You're going to be full. And you're going to be like, sure, I'll come back tomorrow because this is awesome and Earth is cool. Okay. So, for those of you who do not know me, if this is your first time listening, I am your host, De La Soul, and this is Earth is School. This is my wonderful, magnificent podcast that is my baby that I've created solely to give, solely to love and to spread the love and to spread the word and 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 to give you guys a space where you can also be heard. You guys will be coming on here and speaking as well, and then of course in the comments, and just where like minds match. I'll be like answering your questions. I have been a life coach for over 10 years and lots of other coaching. I'm a grievance coach as well. And so this is just me sharing the things that I know, the channel messages that I get. Sometimes I get messages for the collective, and that's, I just kind of mix them together in all these different subjects inside of me. And a lot of times these are things that you guys think but don't get to say. Sometimes you don't have the words to say. So that's all that. And it all has to do with us being one with this earth, with our experiences here as souls, having a human experience. And yeah, we just vibing. It's nothing crazy, It's nothing extra. I don't want to be on the visual. Like, I know a lot of you guys are used to seeing podcasts where you can see the video, but I'm old school. Podcast did not start off that way. So we're gonna take it back. Okay. Earth is School, we taking it back. And I want you guys to hear me because it's something magical that happens literally, scientifically. There is something that changes whenever your mind doesn't have to pick up the visuals and you're just listening. You really get to hear my voice and what I'm saying, what's being conveyed and portrayed. And I think that's powerful. I don't want the distractions of the visuals and my background and all that. I want this to really be, something that feeds you. So, without further ado, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I thank you for tuning in, and let's get into it. I hope this music is not too loud. So, the topic for today that I'm so excited about is forgiveness. The topic for today is forgiveness. This is like every episode, you guys. You guys may have heard the word before, but you've never heard it broken down on this level with these different like points. And so that's why I'm so excited about today's topic, because forgiveness is such a huge thing. And I don't think we understand that every single body, you cannot live this life. You cannot come to earth and go into even being 10 years old. By the time you're 10, it's probably a lot of things that you have to work on as far as healing and forgiving. But you definitely can't make it to adulthood and not have to forgive some things. And I was going to wait to the end to say this, but it's too natural. Healing is forgiving. Healing is forgiving. A lot of us are trying to heal. We're claiming that we are healed, or we really want to be, or we think that we are, or maybe we are. And whichever one of those things that it is, you have to forgive. That is what healing is. In a nutshell, healing is forgiving. It doesn't matter what the subject is. I don't even care what the subject is. You have to forgive in order to heal. Forgiving is like the vehicle, and healing is the road, or vice versa, whichever one. So we're going to really go in. First of all, like, why is healing so important? What is this thing about healing? If you do not heal, I think the biggest thing with healing, I mean, maybe they can't even be compared, but there's a couple things. There is the fact that your energy, your vibe, your mood is going to be thrown off at any given time. I don't know if I said why. Okay, I did say forgive. Exactly. If you don't forgive, your vibe and your energy is going to be thrown off at any given time. You do not even know when you will be triggered if you don't forgive. I'm going to get into what I mean as far as like who forgiving and all the other stuff. But if you just don't forgive, period, doesn't matter what the subject is, your energy is going to be thrown off. You will be creating blockages. So there are money blockages, love blockages. Um, Let me think what else. I mean, peace blockages because you won't have a peace of mind. Happy blockages because you won't be truly happy. You won't be living a happy life. You might have moments and bursts of happiness and peace, but you will not literally be living a happy, peaceful life if you don't forgive. And one of the biggest things about forgiving is your health. Oh my God. Your health is directly connected to your healing. I'm sorry, to forgiving. You guys got to work with me here because for me, forgiving is synonymous, and that's what the purpose of this whole thing is going to be. That's what I'm wrapping this up with, is you guys understanding that forgiving is healing. So if I accidentally say healing, same thing really. But if you do not forgive, you will you will be storing the resentment, the anger, the pain, the hurt, the sadness, all that stuff. You're going to be storing it inside of your body. It's stored inside of your whole body, and it will grow in certain parts of your body. Okay, so when we talk about health, and I know that we believe that health is based on how you eat and if you're getting enough rest, but really the root of your healing as far as your health goes has to do with forgiveness. I kid you not. In the Ayurvedic practices, in Native American healing, ancient Native American healing, in Chinese medicine, and probably so many other different healing practices, you will find the same exact thing that I'm telling you now. And that is that your health is dependent on forgiving. You have to forgive in order to be healthy. I'm trying to be careful with our words because I feel like when we say the word healing, we always think that healing has to do with your health. I mean, I'm sorry. We either think that healing has to do with your health, or we think that healing has to do with like past trauma. Like if you're on your spiritual tip, then when you hear the word healing, you're thinking about shadow work and healing through that kind of thing often, right? Not all the time, but often. And then if you're not, then you're probably thinking about healing as in healing your body, with your health. And these two things actually go together. And your forgiveness is the vehicle to this whole thing. You can't even heal without forgiving. It doesn't even, it's like, I mean, it's like cereal with no milk. Like it's like a car with no engine. It just doesn't even make sense. They have to go together. So when it comes to your health, yes, I'm talking about having any conditions that are not like blunt force trauma, right, to your body, right? Anything that wasn't caused by like a crash or a hit. When it comes to fibroids and ovarian cysts and diabetes, and I mean, There's so many lists of different health issues. The root of those issues, I know sounds crazy because we think that it has to do with your eating habits. I'm telling you today, it is not. Okay? Your health is dependent on your forgiveness. And now, junk food, unhealthy food is a problem. What it does is it doesn't cause these issues, it makes them grow, it makes them get worse, it feeds them, right? It feeds the mucus in your body and whatever else. But when it comes to the way that this thing started, and like I mentioned, the other health practices, right, to back me up so you don't think I'm just talking out the side of my neck. When it comes to the other, to the, I'm sorry, when it comes to actual, like what started it, it has to do with your forgiveness. It has to do with what you're holding on inside of your body. Even headaches. A lot of women, a lot of people in general, but a lot of women, we have chronic headaches. Even those, if you've been having chronic headaches, and you can even tell where the root of this is from by the time that it started. What was going on in your life whenever this issue began? That's a sure giveaway. When I'm doing my healing practice, this is one of the questions that I ask my clients. When did your headache start? When did the fibroid start? When did you get diastasis recti? Okay. Let me make sure I write this down because I do have a story for you guys that's connected to this. I think this is going to be a 2-part thing, so maybe I won't even share it until the end. But your health is dependent on forgiveness. So you must forgive. If you do not, you are holding in disease. It's being housed inside of your body. It's what the body does. And if we want to get on a neuroscience level, because I love science, then let's talk about the limbic system of the brain. The limbic system of your brain is the part of your brain that literally stores bad memories and traumas. If you don't believe me, let me just read really quick. I just like definitions. So I'm just going to read really quick. The limbic system is the part of the brain involved in our behavioral and emotional responses, especially when it comes to behaviors. Especially when it comes to behaviors we need for survival, feeding, reproduction, and caring for our young, and fight or flight responses. So the limbic system is the part of your brain that stores your traumatic memories. And let me talk about trauma too, because we kind of confused about trauma, about what we mean by trauma all the time. But this is what stores your bad memories, and what it does, what the limbic system does is it filters them out. And it literally says, it literally tells your body, right? This is your brain. Your brain, the part of your limbic system literally says, are we going to keep this and store this in the body, or are we going to throw this away? Let's decide if we're going to throw this away for this individual, or if we're going to keep this. Let's store this in the pancreas. Nah, let me go ahead and put it in the somewhere around the ovaries. We're gonna store what this person's mom did to them right in the ovaries. Or how about under the breast, right underneath the breast, what her ex did to her, or what his father or his mother did to him. Why don't we put it right around his prostate area? Why don't we store it around the heart? Let's store this memory, this traumatic memory, right around the heart. This person just lost a loved one. Let's put that right around the heart and let's leave it there. This is what your limbic system does. Okay? So your brain literally filters out traumatic things and things that you need to forgive, and it tells your body if it's going to store it or not. So when I use the word trauma, I'm using it in a very neuroscience way, because trauma isn't always something crazy, like something, okay, let me not say crazy either. Let me say something extreme, like being molested, or getting into a car wreck, or like I'm not always talking about those levels of trauma. The way that the brain works is your brain is a computer. So it's going to pick up data, and your brain is almost addicted to negative experiences. So when I say trauma, I don't mean really trauma all the time for you. I mean trauma for your brain in the sense that it's addicted to the negative past. Anytime that you have something negative happen to you in the past, depending on the level of it, anytime in the future, even if you've moved on from that thing, anytime in the future, um, when you see a similar case happening from that time that was, an unwanted experience, your mind remembers that and you go straight to that. Your mind will literally go straight to the time that you got chased by a dog, and here it is, a dog right here again, the same kind of dog, or there's just a dog period. Or I mean, I don't want to give extreme examples, but if you guys can kind of understand what I'm saying about the way that your brain stores memory and data, and the way that it will almost have an addiction to experiences that were unwanted, to the point where when they come up again in your future, your brain automatically filters through and remembers that time, even if it was many years ago. Even smells do this. If you have a good smell or even a bad smell, and then if you smell that same smell 20 years later, your brain is going to go right back to where that came from. This is how your mind works. It's a computer, right? Okay, so now we got that out the way. Um, so yeah, you are housing things in your body when it comes to your health, whenever you're not forgiving yourself and not forgiving people. So what does forgiving look like? Forgiving looks like peace. Forgiving looks like a peace of mind. It looks like a high vibrational life. It looks like you're happy. It looks like you're not thinking back on the past. It looks like you are going forward with your life. It looks like there's not so many things blocking you and holding you back. What does forgiveness not do? If this is making sense, um, what forgiveness will basically do is it will, or not do, it will basically have you retelling the story. It will have you not living a life of ease, right? Because you're retelling the story. It will have you being easily triggered, so you can easily be triggered whenever you don't forgive. It will have you overthinking, and again, holding on to your past, holding on to whatever traumatic memory and that thing is. Okay. um I'm trying to make sure I hit every point, you guys. This is why I don't like to write things down, because I really just like to flow. But there's so many different things. Let me make sure that I'm getting everything and I'm not forgetting anything. um okay, so what about how we think that we have forgiven? A lot of times we think that we have forgiven because we think that, so we're cool with the person, we're still talking to the person, we don't think we have resentment because we're cool. Like maybe this is your parent, maybe this is somebody in your family. And a lot of people, when we have the conversation of forgiveness, will be like, oh no, well, I've forgiven because I'm not holding on to this like my siblings are, or like my family members and my friends are, when it comes to this person. But that's not what forgiveness is, though. You can actually still be cool with a person. You can talk to them all the time, and you can still be holding on to something that they did to you. It's very, very common. It's so common. And the only way that you can tell is whenever you're triggered. If someone brings up that subject of what they did to you, you'll have like a feeling inside of you. Maybe your face will even kind of scrunch up. You'll make a certain face, or you can literally just feel that your adrenaline is pumping more, and your body changes. You go into flight or fight mode without even noticing. And maybe it's not when that person is brought up, but it's definitely when the subject is brought up. It's definitely when the subject is brought up. It's really important to not be in denial about forgiveness. When you are in denial about forgiveness, no one is really being hurt like you are. No one is really being hurt like you are, because forgiveness is not for the other person. It's for you. just like I explained of what you're doing to your body, how this is literally the way that diseases start, right? They just grow from our bad food and our bad habits, but the way that they begin is this way. So when we hear people say, "Oh, forgiveness is, not for the other person, it's for you," that's meant in a literal sense. It's meant for your health. That's really who it's for. And I think I just think it's really important to not be in denial about forgiveness and to just really be honest with yourself, because it means that you're loving yourself. You really, it's like doing trying to love yourself and then also holding on to resentment and anger. It's almost like an oxymoron if you think about it. And especially whenever it comes to your health, because when your health is off, everything is off. It doesn't really matter what you're doing, how much money you're making, how successful you're becoming, how much your social media is growing. When your health is off, everything is off. And this is not to say that you cannot heal a health issue naturally with herbs and oils, right? I'm sure you guys know that I believe in that, right? But it is to say that there are people who are eating really healthy all the time. You can look this up. There's vegans and they're really, really sick. They have health issues, and that's because of forgiveness. It's also to say that people do change their diet so that they can heal their health conditions. And if they do not change their mind, as in their forgiveness, if they don't get those things out of their limbic system, out of their body, their issue will come back. It's a guarantee. It will come back. And maybe sometimes it even comes back in a different form, but it definitely will come back. So let's see, what's the next thing that I want to touch on? Let's talk about shadow work. If you guys have any of you guys ever heard about shadow work is a really popular term now in the spiritual community. You hear shadow work a lot. I'm never caught up on any of these terms. Anytime a new term comes out, I just am turned away by the term. But I do love that we have these terms to help people be aware and awaken to certain things. We can't knock it. But there's definitely a thing when it comes to shadow work that people don't mention. And I believe that shadow work can be helpful and it also can be very, very dangerous. Shadow work can be so dangerous because you are not supposed to. Oh, wait. Okay. I'm sorry. For those of you who don't know what shadow work is, let me tell you what shadow work is. Shadow work is whenever you're basically supposed to do shadow work for you to find out what the issue is inside of you. What's your trauma? What are the things that you need to heal from? That's what shadow work is. You're going into the shadows of yourself, into the darkness, and you're pulling those things out so that you can begin to heal from them. And you do this in a series of techniques. There are techniques that are done to help you navigate through your through what it is that needs to be healed, right? Now, the danger and the way that shadow work can be toxic is whenever you are reliving and retelling a story over and over again. So I believe that shadow work is really good for people who do not know that they even need to heal, especially if you don't know you need to heal. If you're walking around here saying you have nothing to heal from, never, you need to do some shadow work. That's ridiculous. You're a human, you're a portal, you're a vessel, you house energy, you house traumatic memories and things. So there's absolutely no way that you don't have anything to heal from. But also for people who may not necessarily know what they need to heal from, they may know that there's something, but they just don't know what. That is what shadow work is really good for. Now, if you already know what you need to heal from, and yeah, if you already know that you need to heal for one, but especially if you already know what you need to heal from, you don't need to do shadow work. And I see so many people for many years now that have been doing shadow work, and you end up living in the shadows. You end up living in the trauma, in the story that you have to keep retelling. Again, shadow work is only to find out what it is that is in the darkness, what's in the shadows. It's not for you to keep going back and reliving what your parents did or didn't do, or whoever, hurt you. That's not what it's for. So you'll find a lot of people that have gotten so accustomed to shadow work, it almost becomes like an obsession, especially with social media. And the next thing you know, these people are doing their shadow work for 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, like you're still doing. How are you still getting healing? Doesn't take that long. Healing doesn't take that long, especially not for it to begin. I know that everyone has their own time of healing because everyone has different things. But I'm gonna give y'all a secret too, though. When it comes to problems that humans have, right? In this school that we're in, our problems are really not that far away from each other. We really are all going through the same things in rotation. There's about 10, maybe 8 to 10 issues that we all have throughout our life that just rotate, and the characters change and the different scenarios. There's different little things that go in and come out. I swear to you, that's what it is. I've been coaching people for too long to not know this. And for those of you who are into zodiac signs, you guys know how the houses go, right? You know that when it comes to the zodiac houses, what are the houses? There's the house of career and money. There's the house of family. Um, what else? I can't even remember the other houses, but there's all these different factors that have to do with your life, because long ago, our ancestors knew that these are the subjects, these are the issues or the focuses of your life, and they're either doing good or bad. They're either feeling good or not feeling good. So our problems are not really as unique as we think they are. When we go through stuff, we think that we're the only ones going through it. And that's okay. That's okay sometimes. But I also think it's good to recognize that you're not the only one, and that there's always someone else going through the same thing as you, and even the worst thing. Earth is school. It's what we came here to do. It's one of the things we came here to do, is to grow and to learn. And you have to do that sometimes the hard way, through pain and hurt, and unwanted experiences. So there's that. And what was I saying? Um, you guys, y'all might have to catch me on sometimes on some of the things that I was saying. But definitely just knowing that shadow work is something that you're not supposed to be continuing to relive and just keep going on and on. Because when you retell a story, I have a rule when it comes to retelling something that happened. I don't care how big and how small it is. If someone betrayed me, if someone stole from me, if someone tried the hell out of me, talked to me disrespectfully, I'm only going to tell that. If I have to tell the story at all, I'm only going to tell that story twice. That's my personal rule. I think I came up with this sometime like in my early 20s. And it's been a lifesaver for me, because we really don't realize, especially women, how much we don't have to retell the story. What are you doing when you're retelling the story? You're reliving the event that happened. What is that doing? Whatever freaking frequency that you have about that, it's maintaining that frequency. It's maintaining that vibe and that energy. So what is that doing? Like, where is that helping? It doesn't help at all. Just because we want to unwind and unravel the story, we want to see different sides of it, we want to have different opinions of it, things like that. But really, what does it do when you're doing that over and over again? You're just reliving it. You're just programming your mind to continue to think on that vibration. And that's what shadow work does. That is how shadow work can be toxic and very dangerous. So please be careful when you see people talking about do your shadow work. It's not for everybody. Most of us, I truly believe that most of us know that we need to heal, and most of us know what we need to heal from. At least one thing. You might have 8 things you need to heal from. At least you know one thing. Most of us, not everybody, but I just don't think that most of us have to do shadow work. And there's so many different ways to get your healing in and to not retell the story in such depth too. It's so deep. Okay, so let's see. Let me make sure. Let me make sure that I am also going there. So I want to tell the different types of forgiveness that it takes, and then we'll go in the different types of healing. I think that's better. Yeah, I think that's good. So, what are the different types of forgiving? I believe that there are three different types of forgiving, just like there's three different ways that healing happens. And let me go with the first one, which is one that I think everybody, mostly all of us, um, have to experience here, and that is forgiving your parents. Whoa, forgiving your parents. That's a deep one. That's a big one. I believe that the parent healing, the parent forgiving, right? Because that's, I'm gonna focus more on that word. The parent forgiving is some of the deepest, hardest forgiving that a human being has to do. And I also believe that besides the other one that I'm going to mention, the parent forgiving is the one that we um that a lot of us leave earth not doing. A lot of us just drop out of school, or when we're done when we're done with school, and we don't end up hitting that mark of forgiving our parents. If you are a parent, then I want to say to you that you must forgive your parents. It doesn't even make sense. I don't care how good of a parent that you are. You must forgive. You must forgive because your health and your peace of mind is more important than anything. That's the real reason. But if you're a parent, it's almost bananas for you to hold on to things that your parents did, and not realizing that you too will want to be forgiven. You too will want to be forgiven. I love this conversation because it's so raw and it's so hard for us. And it doesn't have to be that hard. For me, I know that I am a quote unquote good parent, right? I know that I'm an intentional parent. I prefer that word. I know that I'm an intentional parent. I know that I try my best. I do my best when it comes to parenting my children. I really try to have individual relationships with them. I have three children that have the same birthday in the same week. And even with that, even having multiple kids, no matter when their birthdays are, it's really easy to not give them their individuality. So I know that I am so intentional as a parent that I give my children their individuality. I try to give them time and love, like individually, not always as a whole. And even with me being this kind of parent, even with me homeschooling my kids, and doing all the things that I do with them, I know for certain there's going to be things that they're going to have to work on, either forgiving or healing when it comes to things that I have said maybe, and things that I have done maybe. It's almost like an inevitable thing. You don't even always know whenever you have done something that affects your children. You know what's a really good book? A really good book is how could I forget the book? Why? Because it just came to me. I want to say The Seat of the Soul because I have so many books inside of me. It is, damn it, it's written by Don. It has to do with love. Ay ay ay. Now I want to find this book. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I talk about this book all the time. It is The Mastery of Love. That's the book. The Mastery of Love. The Mastery of Love is an amazing book. I've read this book to my children a few times. It's not a children's book, but it can be for anyone. And it really talks about this in a certain aspect. It talks about the different ways that we can traumatize our kids, or again, remembering what the word trauma means, right? It doesn't always mean extreme, but how we can offend them and cause hurts and insecurities inside of them and not even notice it, not even knowing when we're doing that, just by the way that we may talk to them. It can be one single event, it can be one single thing that happens that shapes the way that they do certain things, and you won't even know it. So I'm saying all this to say, just talking to parents, is that if you are not working on forgiving your parents, or you think that you shouldn't, please take another look in the mirror. Go back to the mirror and look at yourself, because karma is real. And karma is just the law of whatever you're giving out comes back. And that law is needed at this school. It's needed at this school because it has so much to do with our growth. And if you choose not to forgive your parents, you will know what that feels like. It might not be to the extreme, because maybe you're not neglecting your children or on drugs or whatever it is that your parents, or one of your parents may have done. But it's going to be something. I'm telling you, it's going to be something, because there is no perfect parent. There's no such thing as perfect parenting. We're all just winging this shit. We're all just doing the best we can do, and it doesn't matter how many books you read and counseling that you do. You're going to fail in some areas. You're going to, okay, I'm going to use the word fail and mistake, but you know that there are no such things as that, right? I say that all the time. There's no such thing as failing. There's no such thing as mistakes. It's still divine. It's still what it's supposed to be. But there are going to be some things that you may do or say with your kids that you will regret, that you would have wished that you could apologize for, or you might actually end up apologizing for. And so it's just so important as a parent to not hold on to what your parents have done, and to just try to get that healing in. And when it comes to I have so many points to make on this that I'm like, okay, wait, what's the next thing? Okay, not the triggering, the parenting. Okay, right, exactly. So one of the things when it comes to, I know that for parents, we can sometimes get triggered whenever we have our children, and then our parent that wasn't so good to us is good to our children. Have any of you guys ever felt that? Like, you have a child and you went through all this stuff with your mom or your dad, and they were toxic towards you and abusive or whatever. And then now you have kids and they are, smiling all the time and being so nice to them and giving them money and whatever else and spending all this time with them. And that can be triggering. That can be really triggering. I know a lot of you guys have experienced this, or some of you. And if you've ever questioned, like, what is that? I mean, there's a couple of things. First of all, again, you know, everybody, like, you might not even know that your parent feels guilt, but they do, because we all realize, whether it's now or later, like, damn, I messed up. I should have did this a little different. So a lot of times when our parents are doing that, they really are trying to kind of like redo what they did or what they didn't get to do, right? And maybe they're doing this without asking for your forgiveness. Maybe they're doing this without apologizing to you, and that's what's really triggering. But try to have some understanding, because a lot of us are not able to face the fire. It's not going to be that easy for you either. When your children grow up and they say, "Hey, you did this," or "No, remember that day when you were going through this and that, and then you said this thing to me." It's going to be some stuff. I'm telling you, it's going to be some stuff. So it's hard. It's hard being a parent. It's really hard facing your mistakes. It's even harder if you had a parent who didn't or did do the same things to you, if you weren't loved in a healthy way. It's a cycle. So just try to remember, if you're triggered by this, if you're triggered by seeing your parent who was or is still toxic, not giving that toxicity to your children, try to be thankful that your children are not experiencing that, what you experience with them. And then try to just be aware, like, now your awareness is there when it comes to this. So you can be less triggered. So you can be more understanding that earth is school, that everybody's on their own journey, and we're all just learning, okay? Because I know that's a thing. Um, And so when it comes to forgiving our parents, I think it is one of the deepest healings or forgiveness, processes that we have to go through. And it's what I'm about to give you. This is a little advice of how you can go about doing that when it comes to your parents. And it's a little bit of shadow work. It's kind of like that. This is under the context of shadow work, but it's not getting so deep into it. And you can literally, let's say that you, for example, you have been neglected by your parents, or you've been abused. You can pull out a picture of yourself, because even though you're an adult right now, that child is still inside of you. The child is still inside of you. We are still those same children. We just grew up. But it's not like your body changed, right? It's not like you got a new brain. You didn't even get a new body. It just grew. Things just grew on it. Right? So you're still that child. If you take out a photo of you and if you speak to your child self, if you say things to yourself like, I love you, you are safe, and there is no one who can who can protect you like I can. No one can protect you the way that I can, because I love you like no one else can. This is you talking to you, looking at yourself, at your child self, looking at a photo of you as a child. This is important work because our neglect and our abuse and everything from our parents, it comes out in our relationships, right? It comes out in our intimate relationships. It comes out with us being too attached to our partners. It comes out with us being don't even get me started on this subject. This is a different episode. But the obsession that some of us can get with our friends. Sometimes women have women friends that kind of grow obsessed with them. Like it'll be like a jealous obsession thing. It's kind of weird, but a lot of times that comes from being neglected as a child. And then you have the way that you can spill out some of those things onto your own children, right? So it's so important for you to talk to your child self and to say, it's okay. It's okay. You are safe with me. I love you. Everything is going to be good. You don't need anyone. You don't need anyone because you have me. I am always here with you. I am always here with you. You will always be good as long as you have me. Try this. Do this until you don't feel like you need to do it anymore. Don't do it just for one day. Don't do it for 2 days. Don't do it for 3 days. We're talking about if you really are trying to get your healing process going. Do this for at least a week, like at minimum, and just do it until you feel like you don't have to do it anymore. And you're going to do it and you're going to look at yourself and you're going to cry and you're going to feel these feelings. These things will come up, and those things are good. Even though it doesn't feel good about it. Be grateful that these things are coming out. So that's just a way that you can heal from your or you can forgive that. Okay, that's two things. That's a way that you can heal when it comes to what your parents have done. And in the end of this, I'm going to tell you guys how you can forgive. I actually have a declaration and a strategy for you to forgive. But it's 47 minutes, guys. I don't know what I'm going to do because I want to cut it. I want to not have 2 hour podcast shows. So I am going to get done with the different types of forgiveness, though. So there is the forgiving of your parents, right? And then there is the forgiving of others. These are your family members other than your parents. These are your friends. These are your coworkers. Um, these are your annoying neighbors that have caused problems. The word forgiveness can also kind of be like the term trauma, like I explained, where there are extremes to it and then there are not so extremes, but they still matter equally because they still are stored inside of your body and your brain. So when we're talking about like forgiving your neighbors and, um, it's just about letting things go. Really, that's what forgiveness is anyway. So this is about letting things go. And I don't even think it's necessary for me to really keep repeating why, right? Like we know why now. We know that you're going to be storing it in your body, whatever this person did to you. You're storing it inside of your mind, causing headaches. You're storing it inside of your uterus, causing fibroids and ovarian cysts and blocked fallopian tubes and all these other issues. Um, Even when it comes to things like gout that we think just came up out the blue, out of, from food or something, all these different things, you're storing them from not forgiving others. And so it's really important for you to use your inner dialogue. I think I've mentioned inner dialogue on every episode now. That's how important it is in this school. And use your inner dialogue and say, okay, how am I feeling about this person? What am I feeling? Is this something that I need to let go? If it's something that I need to let go, that means that it's something that you need to forgive. And healing is forgiving. So it's something that you need to heal from and forgive from and let go. So then there are, after healing from your parents and healing from others, there is healing of yourself. You've heard people say, oh, I keep saying healing, forgiving, I'm sorry. You've heard people say, forgive yourself, right? I used to hear this all the time and I never understood. I would be like, what does that even mean? What does forgiving yourself even mean? I never understood it because I never lived with any regrets. I never had any regrets. I'm going to tell you about my first regret that I had last year. I'm kind of surprised. um, but I didn't have any regrets. So I would be like, how would I have something to to forgive from myself if I accept anything that I did, any quote unquote mistakes that I've made, I accept them. So I don't live with no regrets. So how could I have something to forgive from myself? Forgiveness of self comes in a completely different form than the forgiving of others and the forgiving of your parents. The forgiving of yourself comes out in the form of guilt. When you need to forgive yourself, it's guilt. That is how you can detect that. No one told me this. Okay? So I went a lot of years thinking that I didn't have anything to forgive myself about. And then I realized, yo, I got to let some stuff go about me that don't even have nothing to do with anything that anyone did to me. I have to let go of any things that I have done to maybe my parents or maybe my friends or my family or my children. I have to let that go for my own self, from me, for me. And that comes in the form of guilt. So in all of my sessions that I do, we go through this process of healing yourself. And we go through this detecting of your guilt. It's really easy. If you're honest with yourself, it's really easy. You know at least one thing that you feel guilty about. You know at least one thing that I guess you can say that is a regret, right? Kind of. I mean, some of the things that we feel guilty about, we don't necessarily regret. Things can be really, nothing is really black and white like that. So, you might have something that you don't necessarily regret, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a guilt about it. And if you have a guilt about anything, you must forgive yourself. Why? For the same reasons. You're holding on to guilt. So that can be that can be just as, if not worse, than holding on to resentment and anger from someone else, because you're yourself and you got to love yourself. So how can you love you? How can you truly accept you if you are guilty? When you're guilty, you have resentment for yourself. You have anger towards yourself. You have sadness and disappointment of yourself. So how can you love on you the way that you truly are supposed to be loved? How can you even make clear decisions based off of your self-love if you have this guilt thing about you? That is an insecurity. Guilt is an insecurity. That's what it causes. So you want to really look at the things that you feel guilty about, and you want to start to forgive yourself. You want to start saying, I forgive you. Speaking to yourself, I forgive me. I love me, and it's okay. Right? That's my go-to thing. It's okay. It's okay. Forgiving yourself and saying it's okay. This is so deep, guys. Like this was so mind-blowing for me because I've seen so many people talking about forgiving yourself. And one of the most annoying things in this earth for me, it's the reason why I'm doing Earth is School as a podcast, is because people just be saying shit and don't even know what they're saying and then don't even know how to explain it. So then you get these things like you hear people say, forgiveness is not about the other person, it's for you. Go within. I mean, there's so many different sayings. The answers are inside you. What does this even mean? This makes no sense, right? So I really had a moment with myself when I realized that forgiving myself is getting rid of my guilt, the guilt that I have for myself. And so those are the three different, what do we call these? I guess you can say the three different types of forgiveness. Okay, the three different people that you have to forgive: your parents, others, and yourself. So then I guess, okay, we're already at an hour, right? I might as well just finish. So um, then let's talk about the three different ways that healing happens, because healing is forgiveness. It is forgiving. Forgiving is healing. They're like synonyms. They should be synonyms for each other. Okay, let me read this comment before I go further. Yeah, that's why you have to be careful dealing with others. You can be dealing with their karma. Absolutely. Yes, I thought my mom was the devil and my kids think she is an angel. Ooh, ooh. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you guys, we all go through the same shit. It'd be like 10 things in rotation. Swear to God. I wouldn't lie to you. There's so many people. I get so many clients that have this same exact feeling. I myself felt this. So I know what it is. It's so real. And it can make you even go further away from the healing process because you're just so mad. You're like, look at this. Look at my dad. He's over there being fake. He wasn't even doing that. Look at my mom. She wasn't even, that's not even, like, you really start to just go in. Like, the more you realize about it, the more you realize, like, you make it more real. You just go on and on. Your mind just goes on and on with this until you're holding this thing in, and you're, next thing you know, you're trying to stop your kids from even being around them. You can't stand it. And I'm just encouraging you to have understanding. Nobody's parents, I guarantee you, like, come and argue with me if I'm wrong. There's nobody's parents, there's nobody that had a toxic parent or their parent did toxic things and their parents didn't do toxic things, and their parents didn't do toxic things, and their parents of their parents didn't do toxic things, and their need I go on? I don't even have to go on, right? It's a cycle. It's a cycle. So try to have understanding. It's not excusing it. It's not excusing it. But Earth is school. We really are students here. We really are on our own journeys. We really did come here to learn completely different things, all in the same rotation of ways. And you have to accept that. Or not. You don't have to accept it. You can live with it. You can house it. You can wait until it turns into a really bad health issue, until you really start thinking, you know what it's like. You know when you really, really sick or you got a really bad health issue, and then all of a sudden you really start thinking, you're like, oh shit, this might be something else. This might not be necessarily all that cheese I was eating. Yeah, we don't have to wait. We don't have to wait to catch our healing to do our forgiveness. You can do it now. You can do it before that happens, or you can do it while it's happening. If it's already happening, everything happens how it's supposed to. But yeah, be encouraged, you guys, to have understanding of your parents and their parents' parents and so on and so forth. Mm. Hey, how are you? Latanya, how are you? So yes, we're talking about forgiving. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about forgiving. We went through how health is directly tied to your unforgiveness. I really broke down, probably in the best way you guys can ever catch it, on why forgiveness is not for the other person. It really is for you. I'm going to give it to you right now. I'm not going to spoon feed you. Like, stand up, okay? Get it together, because you got to love yourself and you have to choose you. You got to stop holding on to stuff so you can really live your life. This is not about, it's not about you, and it's so much about you. Does that make sense? It's so much about you, but it's so much about everyone else around you, and you being able to give them healthy love, you being able to avoid any blockages and knock down any of the money blockages and the love blockages and the friendship blockages and all these different things that have been formed from you holding on to past trauma. And I am in no way belittling your trauma. I am in absolutely no way. People have no idea um, what I have experienced growing up. You would be so surprised. People are very surprised to hear what my upbringing was and what I've healed from. So I'm in no way belittling your trauma. And even if you think that, it's just a trigger. It's just a trigger. It's just your body holding on. Your mind wants to heal. Your higher self wants to forgive. But our bodies hold on. Our bodies are like, the brain already stored it, right? The limbic system already stored it. So I'm gonna hold on to it and I'm gonna turn this into cancer. It's true. It's true. Look it up. Look up Chinese medicine, the Ayurvedic practices. It's very true. I almost hate that I told you guys I was going to stop at 30 minutes, because here we are and I'm not stopping. We have to keep going. um, okay, so there are three different ways that I believe that let me see what word should I use? Forgiveness or healing? Again, healing and forgiveness is synonymous. We should stop separating it. It's really the same thing. If we understood that in order to heal you have to forgive, we wouldn't be so lost on how you heal. Like, how do you heal? That's another one of those things that's like, okay, how do like, I have to forgive myself? What does that look like? That's guilt. Okay, but how do you heal? You have to forgive. So there's three different types of ways that I believe that we go into healing. And the first way that I'm going to mention is grieving that turns into healing. So grieving that turns into healing or forgiveness. That's when um, you might have a bad breakup, and you grieve. Breakups are traumatizing all the way, or should I say they can be. And so first you grieve through that breakup, through what feels like a loss. It's not a loss at all, but what it feels like is a loss. And then eventually, as you go through the motions, right? As you go through the emotions, and you get your crying out, and you do your journal work, and you go through your whole phase, if that's what you got to do, and anything else, then you begin to heal. You start to forgive, you start to accept, right? You start to let go. So that's one way that healing happens. Another way is you're triggered. This is the way that my healing process started with my parents. And I mentioned earlier how you cannot forgive someone and think that you have. I've always had a relationship with my parents. And me and my father have had an awesome relationship. I had no idea that I had some things that needed to be healed from my father because I've always been a daddy's girl. So I had no idea. That's how deep healing is. It's not what we see on social media. It's not. It's not what people explain. It's so deep, and it's so, and the cases of what you need to forgive can be so minute. That's why I use, when we talked about forgiving others, is why I use your neighbors as an example, because that sounds so small, but if you're holding on to something that your neighbor did, you need to forgive and let it go. You need to not be holding on to that. You can attract the same thing with your new neighbors. So I had some things that I needed to heal from my father that I would have never guessed if it wasn't triggered, because him and I have always had a relationship. And yeah, triggering is the hardest one of these three healing processes that I'm going to mention. It being triggered is the hardest. And the reason why is because almost like a bad breakup, but a bad breakup you kind of see coming, right? You guys are not just in bliss, beautiful bliss one day, and literally the next morning it just goes haywire. Normally there's a couple of days in between there, right? It's a couple of weeks that you kind of get. But when you're triggered, no. When you're triggered, it comes up and you do not know the hour. You don't even know the hour that is going to happen. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You have no idea the hour that you are going to be triggered. And and the one thing I'm going to encourage you to do is that if you catch a moment of being triggered, take advantage. I have that written down somewhere. I wrote it down months ago in one of my books, but it says something like take advantage of your triggers. Take advantage of your triggers. That's a word right there. Take advantage of your triggers, because this is a matrix. This is a simulation. So things don't have to end up like, your emotions don't have to be the driving force of everything. You can be triggered, which is really you being caught off guard, because that's what a trigger is, right? You're not ready. And you can take advantage of your trigger, and you can say, this is where I'm going to start my healing. I'm going to start right now. I'm going to get into it right now. And that's what I did. That's exactly what I did. I started my healing when I was triggered. And it was at the moment, I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I would be depressed forever. And I mean, you ever hear them say, healing is not pretty? Whew, baby. Especially when you're really like intentionally going through that process. And I was pulling out my photos every day and speaking to myself and assuring the child in me that I am safe and that I love myself, and that there is no man, there is no friend, there's no one that I can meet with no business opportunity, no nothing that can make me, period, that can make me whole. There's no one that I need. There's no individual that I need. And so I really had to go through that, and I was triggered. And in the moment it was like the craziest thing I've ever went through. But after, when I started to come out of it, I was so thankful. I was so thankful for that. I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad to be triggered, because I took advantage of my trigger. I didn't just allow my trigger to fester and to spill out onto my children and other people that I love. Before I mention the last way that healing can happen, let me read the comments. She said, I did my crying 3 years ago. I've been ready. Okay. Yes. Take advantage of your triggers. Take advantage of your triggers. I have to stop reacting. That's my problem. I'm a fire sign. And once it's lit, it's hard to put out. But my kid's dad is the only one that can ignite that flame. Mm, he might even be your twin flame. I talked about twins when I broke down relationships and soulmates and stuff on like episode 2. So you might want to check that out, because if it's somebody that triggers you like no one on earth ever has, he very well could be. And there's a whole nother different type of healing you got to do. for twins. Hey, Afro Millennial Mama. So, yeah, reacting is a big thing. I think that's mentioned every episode too, because Earth is school. And when we adopt the understanding that I understood somehow when I was like 5 years old, that this is really a school and that we are students, then your reaction can become a lot more controlled. When you really, really, really tell yourself and understand every day, give your soul the assurance that this is a simulation, that Earth is school, that everybody is on their own journey. And the most important thing is how you feel. That's how you manifest. That's how you manifest. If you haven't watched the video of how to manifest things quickly, not the video, but the episode that I just did a couple days ago, I break down this exact thing about our emotions being the way that we manifest and how important it is. Nothing is more important than how you feel. And people ask me like, what's my priority? They are so shocked when I don't say my kids. My kids, if I had to name one priority, it's my feelings. How can I even raise my kids? How can I even raise them in a healthy way if I'm responding and reacting to everything in ways that are out of my control? My emotions and how I feel is my top priority. I have to make sure that, especially as an empath, that I'm putting on my armor every day and that I'm protecting myself, and that my vibration, like I'm doing my best to maintain a high vibration. Because if I do that, when people come with their ways of not being healed, of not having any inner dialogue, right? Neuroscientists say that we are dealing with 30 to 50% of people here that don't have an inner dialogue. So we're talking about half of us at minimum, I think is way more, but half of us that don't even have the capacity to say, what am I doing, how am I feeling? Oh, I'm probably making this person feel this. Oh, are these boundaries, am I overstepping them? What am I doing? So you're dealing with these people that don't even know how to do that. It's really up to you. The way that we react is really up to you. It's really up to you. And it's so important for you to be able to just remember what it is here so that you can control, your reactions and stuff. It's so important because it's like stuff don't even be mattering. You know how many things don't matter? There's so many things that do not matter. It is amazing that in the moment, it really feels like it matters. Isn't that amazing how you will have an argument with your partner or a situation with your friend or just so many different scenarios? Most of the stuff that we retell over and over again and we dwell on and we have worry over, you can fast forward 3 months, 6 months to a year. If you haven't forgot about the whole thing, you're laughing at it or it just doesn't even matter anymore. So it's so important to remember that Earth is school, that everybody is a student. We're all learning, we're all growing, we're all on our own journey, even if it doesn't look like the person is growing. Even if it doesn't look like it. So the last way that healing can happen, that forgiving can happen, right? Because in this episode, and probably every time really, I'm using forgiving and healing synonymous. It is synonymous. I do not do a session with anyone without touching their childhood and having them face what they have to forgive. That's how that's how synonymous forgiving is to our whole entire life. It doesn't matter what you come to me with. It doesn't matter what type of health issue you have. It doesn't matter headaches, whatever kind of ovarian, whatever type of thing is going on. We're going to tap in to the things that you have to forgive first because that is synonymous to living a happy life. Forgiving is synonymous to living a life of peace and a life of ease, of being able to take the path of least resistance. Uh-oh, I've had these beats on here. They better not copyright me. Okay, so the last way that forgiving and healing can can happen is intentional. Forgiving can happen intentionally. It doesn't have to be triggered, like we just mentioned. It doesn't have to be through a grieving process, like the example I gave of a bad breakup. It can be intentional. You can make the decision, and it doesn't have to be this crazy, ugly thing either. Even though healing is not pretty, I'm sorry, even though forgiving is not pretty, it doesn't always have to be ugly either. And I think this is important because a lot of us are afraid to forgive because we're afraid to heal. A lot of us have businesses going on. We have newfound things and discoveries we're starting. We are on a mission. And we be like, I ain't got no time to heal. I don't have no time to be trying to forgive and going through that and doing my work of going to my childhood and trying to, figure this out. I don't got no time to be crying. It's kind of scary, right? So this is assurance that it doesn't always have to be like that because of what I broke down when it comes to your mind. All it is the computer of your brain, right? Your brain storing in data. And you have control. You have the ability. You don't have control over your mind now. If you haven't exercised your mind, you don't have control over your mind. You might have you might be able to control, have a lot of like self-discipline. You might have good morals and good values in the way that you do things, the way you move, the way you react. But if we haven't been exercising the brain that is a muscle, then we don't have control over our mind. That's why our mind plays tricks on us. I have my children say every day, your mind is your enemy until you make it your friend. So that's what this is about. Intentional forgiving, intentional healing is about having control over your mind. And you do have the ability to do that. You do have the ability to say, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to not have this feeling that comes up every time I mention my dad. I want to not have this sour taste in my mouth every time my mom's name is mentioned, or this mutual friend that I have with this person. You do have the ability to do that. And you do that through rewiring your brain. So this intentional thing is very different from the other two. This is something that you have the ability to do, but we just don't know about it. We just weren't taught. We weren't taught much about our mind, which is a whole nother episode. I got like 100 episodes to do on this because it just freaks me out that our brain is the thing that's running us and we don't know anything about it. Oh my God, it hurts my heart. Like it hurts my brain. I just don't understand. Like I just don't understand how they've allowed, how they've been able to do this number on us. Your mind does everything for you. It tells you how you're going to eat, what you're going to eat. Obviously, like I mentioned in the beginning, how you're going to store your trauma and the things that go on in your life. It's so important. So you can literally rewire your brain and you can set down for 5, 10, 15 minutes of your day. You can relax your body. I'm giving you guys like a really good review on like the different alpha sessions that I do. You can relax your mind, you can relax your body. You can release all the tension from your body and your mind, and you can begin to focus on that individual that you need to forgive, and you can see yourself forgiving them. I think it's a lot easier to do this when you're being guided, but your mind might be strong enough to do this on your own. And if you do, it is very, very powerful. And it doesn't have to involve all of the chaotic, now you got to be depressed for 2 months. It doesn't have to be that. Um, and so, what you will do is you will see yourself hugging this person or doing some kind of gesture that is an agreement of forgiving them, doing this to yourself as well, right? Because we talked about how forgiving yourself, what does that look like? That's guilt, right? That's forgiving your guilt. So doing the same thing to yourself, you can do that as well. And you are going to go through this process of forgiving without actually talking to the individual. You can really start to forgive and start to heal without doing it in the 3D. And it's some of the most powerful healing. Honestly, it's more powerful than healing in this realm. In the realm that we want to try to talk to the people that we have to forgive and the people who have hurt us and done us wrong, in the realm where we want to convince them of what they've done and we want to get our points across and make them realize what they've done to us, in this realm that we are in, where humans want to do that, it's a lot more powerful to just do it within yourself. It happens first there, and then you can even have the conversation. You could try, and if the conversation doesn't go right, it won't even bother you, because your vibration will be so high and you will have already healed from that. You might not even want to have the conversation anymore. You might not even have the desire to. And so what you're going to do, and this is me giving you guys a strategy. This is like a declaration that I give to all my clients when it comes to healing. This is very, very powerful stuff. It doesn't seem like it does much, but it programs your brain, and it really, really works. It's the same thing I mentioned about saying it's okay, right? If you guys have been trying that, it works right away. As soon as you start panicking, as soon as you start overthinking, as soon as you start feeling some type of guilt or something, oh no, I shouldn't have did this, I should have did that. It's okay. Your whole body just starts to just be relieved. So if you can focus on the person or yourself that you need to forgive, and if you can say these things every single day: I love you, I'm sorry, I forgive you, and I accept the purpose of our connection. You can say it in any way that you want to say it. I'm sorry, I love you, I forgive you, and I accept the purpose of our connection. I'm sorry, I love you, I forgive you, and I accept the purpose of our connection. This is really powerful stuff, guys. If you say this every day, just like the strategy I gave you to healing your child self inside of you, if you do this every day until you feel like you don't have to do it anymore, let me tell you what's going to happen. Your heart is going to begin to soften. Right now, when it comes to this person, when we're on the subject of this person, when your mind is on the subject, your heart is hardened. And or depending on the severity of what this person did, your heart is just always hardened. It may not even be just when you're on the subject of them. So either way, as you begin to do this, and depending on how deep this is for you, it can start to take place 2 days later. It can be a few days later. It can be a few weeks. But if you just keep doing it, you're going to feel this softness in your heart. You're going to feel your heart opening up. You're going to feel this ease come over you. You're going to start to feel lighter. Now, with me saying all that, what does that tell you? That tells you that when you're not doing this, that when you're holding on, you are not living a life of ease. You are feeling more hardness. Okay. If you're a woman, you're even more in your masculine energy at times. If you're a man, you're overly aggressive at times, right? That's what that tells you. Because if you do this and it softens you and it opens you up and you feel more love and more ease, then what does that mean? That means that you were doing the opposite before, right? Lots of tension. A lot of us have, all of us, I'm not even going to say a lot of us, because everybody that I have, um, helped with these strategies, we all, like, even myself, there's times that I'm like, oh, okay, there's tension. Like, we're not really, just like the inner dialogue, you don't even really know when you have tension inside of you. That's why you'll hear me say, just take a deep breath. Just breathe in and just breathe out. And there's literally tension. The tension is leaving your body. You can feel it. So as you're doing this every single day, you're going to feel the tension ease and ooze out of your body, out of those different places where your body has been housing this person's hurt and the guilt that you have, or whatever the resentment and stuff is. So just try that. That's just a really, like, brief. I can't, give you the whole thing, That'll be like a whole nother episode. But those are the three different ways that forgiveness happens or healing takes place. First, through grieving, that goes into the process of healing. That one is kind of sketchy. I don't really like that one too much, because that just means like that one is more based on time. And sometimes things can still come up later, and then you'd be like, oh wait, damn, I wasn't even all the way healed from that. But that's a natural way that it happens. And then you have the triggered, right? When you're triggered. And then you have intentional, when you can just make the decision because you love yourself. So you can just say, I'm going to start doing this right now. I'm going to, tonight when I go to bed, I'm going to start saying about my mom or my dad or my cousin or whoever, I'm going to start saying, I love you. I'm sorry. I forgive you. And I accept the purpose of our connection. Every time you say that, you're going to get new revelations in your mind. You're going to have newfound understandings of what that means. And it's going to be a breakthrough. I want you to do it, and I want you to tell me how it goes. Message me, come into the comments on one of the next um, episodes, and let me know how that goes. Okay, so we're gonna close in just a second, guys. I think that is it. I think that's it. I wanted to every time I have a message to say at the end, I end up saying the message within because it just goes so perfectly every time. I wanted to end with I guess it'll be more personal, but me just saying the reason why healing is important for me, the reason why I'm not selfish about my healing, or I guess you can call it selfish, because it's about self. Healing is so important to me. I am not holding on. I do not want to hold on to anything. I love the way I feel when I don't care about something that someone did. It feels so good. It feels so good to not wake up thinking about that, to not go to sleep, or just be driving down the street, or just doing whatever I'm doing randomly, and then all of a sudden this person is seeping into me. It feels so good. So healing is for yourself, and it's because you love yourself. And it is synonymous with forgiving, and forgiving is synonymous with living this life. It's something that you just have to learn to do all the time. This is why I say, when we're trying to pick partners that are healed, it doesn't make sense. That makes no sense. It's an oxymoron. How can you get someone that's healed if healing is going to always be? You're not just going to heal at like age 40, and then unless you're going to lock yourself in a cabin for the rest of your life, then you won't have anything else to that you have to forgive, and you have to let go from anybody else in the future. But since that's not the case, you're going to always have something. It's a process. It's cool. So it's okay. Get into it. Get into forgiving. Get into healing. You know what? There was something else that I needed to mention. I'm so glad I mentioned that. I thought about this right now. I don't know how I didn't write this down. It's very important. What forgiving is not. Forgiving is not forgetting. For everybody that's been listening to this far, you probably already been triggered. If you have something to forgive someone about and it's been hard, you might have already been triggered a long time ago, because I was supposed to mention this in the beginning. Forgiving is not forgetting. Every time I talk about forgiving, there's always someone that is assuming that I'm saying forgetting. And that's only because your body doesn't want to let go. So you're thinking that the person is saying, oh, just forget everything. Just be cool with them. Let them in your life. Let them do whatever. They can overstep your boundaries. It's okay. You have to forgive. Absolutely not. Forgiving is not forgetting. Just like you can think you forgave somebody because you talk to them all the time and y'all are cool, just like we do that, humans, we lie to ourselves and we say, oh no, I'm not, no, I've already forgiven my parents. No, I've already forgiven that person because we're cool. That doesn't mean that though, right? Just like that is the same way that forgiving does not mean that the person has to be in your life and they have to come back in the same way that they were there before or any of that. That part doesn't even matter. If you're thinking about that, you're still not thinking about forgiving for you. That's the truth. If you're thinking like, oh my God, I'm not about to take this person back, that means that you're still focused on the outside. You're not focused on how much you love yourself and what a priority your peace is. You're not focused on not continuing the cycle of non-forgiveness and whatever else, if this is from your parents. You're not focused on, I mean, and cycles don't even exist just with parents. We have cycles in friendships too, so you could carry on a cycle, a certain pattern in friendships too. So there's some real importance in understanding that forgiving is not forgetting, and that forgiving is for you. So that part doesn't even matter. There was some more details I was going to give, but honestly, it doesn't even matter. You just have to forgive because you love yourself enough to forgive. You're so welcome. You guys are so welcome. Thank you. Thank you. I believe that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to Earth is School. This was amazing. I was so happy to give you guys this message. Forgiving on a level that you haven't heard before, that I think is really good for the collective, really good for us, because Earth is School. That's what we came here to do. We came here to grow, evolve, right? Experience pain and trauma. That's what we came here to do. Happiness, bliss. Thank you. So we close it out. If y'all have any last things you want to say, any questions that you have, anything of that nature, you're so welcome. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If this was helpful to you, and if you think this is important for others, please share my podcast. Please share this episode. I know it's an hour and 30 minutes, but hey, it would have been impossible for me to get through all this without it. All right, y'all. I love y'all. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I want you guys to enjoy the rest of your day, checking your inner dialogue, living a life of ease, taking the path of least resistance, all that good stuff. And remembering that Earth is school. Peace out.